How is? I got some people complaining on the YouTube comments that I never answer them. I answer the odd ones, but I don't answer most of them. I just don't have the time. So I thought it'd be a good idea if I got some of the comments that stood out, or some of the things I was asked, and just answer them on camera, because it'd be that easier. So, it's not I don't appreciate you leaving comments. That's fantastic. I want you to. It's just a matter of, it's literally just time. So this will be the first in a series of this kind of thing. And I'm thinking of decided to call it Ale and Answers. Even though I'm not drinking ale rhymed with answers. Pilsner didn't. I don't know, Pilsner and piss up, I don't know. So yeah, while I'm chilling out here and have a few moments, I will answer selected questions off the comments for those of you who have asked. And if you have other questions, post them in the bottom, and I'll do them in the next video, Ale and Answers too. So it's just like, those of you who can't go to the pub with me, imagine you're with the pub with me. By the way, what I'm drinking is Vakar Polish lager. It's lovely. I discovered this a couple of years ago. It's a lovely malty natural beer, as many of the decent beers from Poland are. Lovely flavour quality to it. No fluoride, no chemicals. You can drink like 6 or 7 of them and you won't have a hangover the next day. You will be thirsty though. Like, if there's something about it that makes you very thirsty. But you drink water before you go to bed. But you won't get a hangover. You won't wake up in bits like you will with piss off the pubs and the pub taps and stuff like that. So the first question is from someone called Andy, and Andy says to me, I was on your Facebook page and it seems that half the people that are on there are sodomites, sorry guys, drag queens, lesbians and other weirdos. Well, first of all, I don't have a problem with gay people. For all my life, I've had gay friends. No gay person's ever done anything bad to me. I've only ever had fun with them. Not that kind of fun. I've just always attracted these kinds of people because I was a bit of an outsider myself growing up. I didn't fit into Catholic Ireland, and I was always, and I'm still an outsider. I don't see myself as a normie or a mainstream, and I only judge people never on anything like, I know I give Christians a hard time and I give Islam a hard time, but I would never, I met a Christian or a Muslim person, I don't treat them like shit. I see the humanity first, it's a dogma. And it's the same with anything else. Anyone else, what adults do in their own time, in their own home, good luck to them. It's none of my business. I don't care. I don't have morality in that sense that I needed a book to tell me what was moral and what wasn't moral. I was able to distinguish and discern people and human decency from what they do in their own privacy of their own homes as consenting adults, and what they do on the weekends. None of my business. None at all. If they're nice people, I couldn't care if they worship a horsefly named Eric, or they dress up in women's clothes and pretend to be. That's none of my business. Live and let live. Once they're kind, decent people, I couldn't give a shit. So thanks for that, Andy, and that's why I blocked you. And the next one is from Dave Love. It's Cheddar Man. It was Cheddar Man Black. Now, it recently came out a story about Cheddar Man, and the earliest English people were black. And then the Irish Times, being a wonderful cultural Marxist rag, had to jump in and say, the first Irish people were black too as well. Well, having black skin and being black are two different things. I mean, like a black and from Africa are two different things. Now, people all over the world where humans settled, they developed according to the natural environment. So that's why Eskimos, their eyes are like this, because they don't get snow blindness. And Siberians, and that's why they kind of became the dominant, humans in that part of the world. And black people in Africa are beautifully adapted to what they are, in what they were naturally. The thing was that they, you know, the sun and everything, and they were stronger than us for a different reason. Maybe because there was more predators to deal with, they had to run faster. Europeans are different too. We have to like work for everything because it's an inhospitable climate, so we don't get as much school. Look at me, I'm pink. I'm so pink. I'm practically, you know, I'm not even white. I'm pink. So that tells you right now, I'm a white man, but I'm pink, right? So Cheddar Man probably did have black skin. If the DNA says it, that's okay. But that doesn't make them an African person or the first Irish people. They were probably dealing with... Now remember, there was... Coldness and ice age is the normal for our people. And people do change and do develop. I mean, I know, you know, their skin can change amazingly quick. I can remember... you know, people I know, Irish people who are pink like me, or even white like me, or whiter than me, going to Australia or America and having kids over there, and Spain too, and having kids over there, and even though they were both pink like me, the kids had like brownish tones to them by the time they're adults. A melanin increase happened. It's amazing how quickly it happens. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's possible. It's possible. That's what they're saying. It could be bollocks too, but it's no big deal. You know, racists will always find something to be offended by. I'm not bothered that my ancient ancestors had black skin. They were, you know, it doesn't matter. Who cares? It's just irrelevant. We are what we are now because of environmental factors and so on. And look at Aboriginal Australians. They're a fantastic example. They're not African people. They're not of the sub-African, you know, heritage. But they've got like the blackest skin. Again, it's the climatic conditions that they had to adapt to. So there would have been also things that there would have been diseases and viruses and epidemics that affected these people in ancient times that they're probably no longer exist. They could have maybe even been darker. Maybe they mostly moved about at night, you know, or something like that. Maybe it was too dangerous with all these wild predators in Europe to go about during the day. Maybe they moved around at night and they developed a darker skin tone because of it. So maybe they lived completely under the moonlight, you know. So that's it's possible. Cheddar Man and the first Irish people were black, but it's nothing to do with some kind of like... They're pushing it for the cultural Marxists are pushing it for that reason, because it makes them feel good about their stupid agenda. You know, they're so in favour of diversity. They don't want Europeans to be Europeans anymore. They don't want Africans to be African. They want everyone mixed, and they don't want anyone being any part of the world being proud of their heritage or their ancestry, or anything like their culture. They want this kind of blob for the future, transhumanism, and the cultural Marxists and the colleges just turned them out, even in like antiquarian and archaeological degree courses. They just pumped them out with that in mind. You know, you dig in a hole in the ground in Ireland, you find something. You've got to apply some kind of cultural Marxist context to it. Prior to that, in Ireland, it was Christian. You had to find a Christian, you know, and everything before Christianity was a death cult. So you're right to question it, Dave. You're right to question it, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Someone called the 51st Project said, milk and fish, are they okay to eat because they're kind of harvested by pain? Yeah, that's a good question too. First, milk. I would not touch milk in the United States of America because of the growth hormones, unless I could get like raw milk or organic milk. And also that way the cattle are kept inside big milking sheds and they don't have a natural life. They're completely it's disgusting, okay? And the milk over there is horrible. It's just like grey water. Now, I'm lucky to live in a part of Ireland where I have farmers who I can get raw milk from. And people who say humans are not meant to eat milk and dairy, you're just wrong. You're just completely wrong, okay? I mean, I live in the land of beautiful butter, cheeses and creams and milks, and I mean these things are not chemically made. I mean, growth hormones are banned here. And milking and animals here are grass-fed and they live out in the wild. It's not like in America where it's disgusting, and in some other countries, a disgusting machine type thing. And so, like, if you must get dairy, get as near to nature as possible. Anyone who says that humans don't drink milk, they're wrong, because it comes from your mother. And when they say it's cross species, you can go to many indigenous cultures around the world to this day, and your ancestors passed as well, and you would actually see human women breastfeeding livestock. Oh, I can just see the shock in your face now. But they would breastfeed the lambs sometimes when the ewes weren't milking, and vice versa. The problem is today we don't give anything to the cows, especially the ones that are in the factory things. So if you must drink milk and butter, eggs, cheese, and the same with eggs, I guess, always get organic and always get raw milk if you can. There's no substitute. And if you live in America and you can't get that stuff, stay away from milk. Now, and the fish, and then a good one. The big fish caught by trawlers is as disgusting as battery hens and battery chickens. You see, I'm a meat eater, but like most meat eaters today who have a brain, we're unhappy about farming methods. So if I could afford it, I would buy game all the time. Deer, boar, etc. that were shot living in the wild. Expensive. It's expensive to get that, but I can get it in some places now and again. That would be the food. That's the meat I prefer. But I do get all my fish line caught, and I'm lucky again. There's an old-fashioned fishing village not far from here called Kalala. The fish and the lobsters and the seafood are caught properly. They're caught with line, or they're not caught with, or they're caught by fishermen who are sports fishermen who sell you the fish afterward. They give it to you. A lot of them give it to you. So again, yeah, I don't. These big trawlers that scoop out the sea, horrible, just horrible. And there is a kind of a spiritual aspect to that as well. We're so related to my new book, The Sorcery, The Invocation of Strangeness. We're so related to the seas and the oceans on a spiritual level. And when we violate the seas and the oceans, we violate ourselves spiritually. That first became apparent to me when the BP, I think it was called something Horizon, the BP Horizon rig blew up in the Gulf of Mexico about 10 years ago, and I felt very spiritually violated by that experience, because all that shit oil was going into the Gulf of Mexico and eventually making its way, and all the chemicals they throw in to break it up the Gulf Stream towards this part of the world. You don't escape. You attack the oceans, you attack the soul of humans, or peoples, or whatever you want to call them. Okay, now, that was Thank You 54th Project. And then someone called Bible in Depth. I need a drink for this one. God, that's lovely. Claims that demons are a hybrid of angels and humans, like the Nephilim. And the Bible says this. Well, the first thing is that you can't really go by the Bible. And having said that, you can't really go by the Eddas or the Irish Annals. And even the other day I was talking to someone online, you can't even go by the Hindu Vedas and like the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata, because when they're translated into English, they've been changed. I'll talk about this, another question coming along. You approach ideas in a mystical sense, not in a literal sense. So this fella actually thinks that angels are real people, like they're like people. They're not. They're some kind of other, and so are demons. I don't call them angels, I call them gods, because that's really what an angel is, a god. Christians can't call them gods because there's only one God. But they're a higher, I don't know the word higher, they're a more powerful force of consciousness above humanity, where demons and fairies, now I know all you Trixabel, Land of the Fae types will all go mad. In Ireland and in most of Europe, fairies were scum. They were considered lower forms of consciousness, so that's what they are. That's why they have this, demons and fairies share the same attributes, a hatred of humans. Now, that's why when you do ceremonial magic, if you still do it, although that's becoming increasingly obsolete in modern times, is that you invoke gods and you summon demons. So when you summon a demon, you treat it like a piece of shit. It's like it's the only thing it understands, and the only thing it responds to is being treated like shit. And you use it, like if you summon it, to get you to do things, to get you to find things, to get you to information from the past or the future, the present, and then you banish them when you're finished. Angels is very different. It's very difficult to summon a god, what you call an angel, a god. And they're nothing to do with demons. They're completely different. Yet humans are an intermediate kind of like being between the two, but we're not a hybrid, and they're not hybrids. Gods or angels, you invoke them with great humility. You invoke them with great reverence, and you ask them, and depending on who this god or this angel is, they all have their own particular attributes. Now, are they real things? They're probably, you see, we see them as angels, we see them as gods, and we put these anamorphic or zoomorphic attributes to them. Like, you know, they don't really exist other than an energy force. And we conceptualize them as beings because it's the same way our nervous system and our brain functions like that. It has to have something to lock onto, so for our cognition to be able to handle it. A kind of an encapsulation of sorts. So yeah, 51st Project. The Bible can't be trusted. And if you think the Bible is literal, even the older books, you're just out to lunch. You just haven't done anything. I mean, it's like they're just not, okay. So, you know, when they talk about what they ever say about the Nephilim and all, I wish I never heard that fucking word ever again, because people, oh, the Nephilim, they're UFOs. They're not. You know, forget about that. Okay, thank you, Bible in Depth, and here's the Jesus, whatever your God's name is. Okay, someone called Nordleys or Nordleys, and they got insulted by my video, and they said that the video that I made on an indigenous European revival, and that I said that Wicca is essentially Jewish. It is. It's a replacement for the Christianity is Jewish. It all goes back. Islam is Jewish. It all comes from the Abrahamic Jewish religion. They're all corruptions of the original thing. And they're all apostates and blasphemies. And they call themselves Christianity, and they call themselves Islam, and they call themselves Wicca. But they all come from the same thing. Wicca, you didn't listen to what I was saying because you're not very intelligent, and I'll explain why later on why you're not very intelligent. Is that you took it literally. I was talking about Wicca as a symbolic replacement for Christianity. And it was, and that's what it was designed for. And it probably wouldn't have taken off or flown if it wasn't presented that way. So people come out of the witchcraft laws in 1951. You're not going to sell them hardcore paganism on the spot. These are people who literally believe the Bible to be true. It's in 1950s, 60s, maybe even the 70s, you were never going to get away with that. It's only now we have the luxury of being selective about all this stuff and saying it, and people not wanting to kill us or beat us up or anything like that. And you said that I confused paganism with heathenry. Look, I know where you come from, Norderlays, or whatever you call them. Let me tell you what you are. You didn't know anything about Nordic or Norse religion or the Vedas or anything, or the Eddas, until you got into the TV show Vikings, right? Isn't that right? Isn't it? You watch Vikings and suddenly you think you know everything about Vikings. You think you're a fucking Viking now, don't you? So what you do then is you join something like an Astura, a wankbag group on Facebook, where you have all these assholes just like you who got into it through a TV show, who now think they're you know, the Hail Odin, Hail Thor, and all this stuff. And you, it's all, you know, I'll tell you, Asturu is Wicca for guys who have manhood problems. I watch Vikings, I got my cosplay Viking outfit, I have my swords and axes I ordered from a Chinese sweatshop online, I'm a Viking, yeah, and that's the kind of crap, right? You're not, you never were. And now I'm into Asturu, Hail Odin, and all this crap. You know, Hail Odin, Hail, all this bullshit. It's all churchy. That's all it is. Asturu is like churchy. That's all that is. That's why I can't stand it. Or Wicca. Do what you want to do, but don't tell me you know your stuff because you got into something through the Vikings tea, and there's thousands of you around at the moment, and all of you are equally as obnoxious as the other. The editors can't be trusted because they were edited by Christians, so they have these stupid ideas of Odin on a horse with 8. That's all bullshit. These are all representatives. These are encapsulated forms, archetypes, just like all pagan religions. And yeah, I know paganism is a bad word. It just means hillbilly or country dweller. I'm not insulted. She shouldn't be insulted by that. And they're not literally. Thor doesn't literally exist. Loki is lightning. Thor is thunder. And the power and the archetypal and spiritual powers of these things. Odin as Wotan is the same thing as well. And your idea of Odin as the warrior comes really from Wotan, which is a Germanic aspect of Odin, which is much more warlike and so on. The real Odin is much more like Shiva. Shiva, very much like Shiva. And the whole idea of him sacrificing one eye, that's all about gaining internal, knowledge. There's he goes down to the will at Mimir's well, and he sacrifices his eye for a draft of the well water, and then he develops internal knowledge. There's a very similar story in the Vedas where Shiva's earthly wife puts her hands around his eyes, playing a lover's game, like, guess who, it's me, that kind of thing. And as soon as she does that, reality starts to deteriorate and the world starts to collapse into darkness. But at that moment, his third eye opens to save the world, and he sees humanity as it really is, and he sees the cosmos as it really is, through the same idea, sacrificing this sight in order to get this sight. And these fellas all think, oh, Odin, the warrior, oh, and those toolist images of him. I don't have a problem with the toolist people, but like that kind of like the kind of toolist kind of like political idea that comes from Ariosophy and armament. Look it up, wherever you call yourself, whatever you want to call yourself, Ragnarok McGinty, whatever your real name is. But you're wrong. You're completely wrong about all that stuff. And you and your Stura buddies are just a bunch of cosplay Nordic spiritualists. Don't come to me saying you act like you know it all when you think Odin actually has a horse of 8 legs, and you really think Thor has his chariot pulled by 2 goats. You don't understand spirituality, but read The Hero with 1,000 Faces, it's from behind me somewhere, by Joseph Campbell, or Man and the Symbols by Carl Jung. You'll learn. Okay, the next one is from Frankie08, and what's his... Frankie, I wrote this down now. You see, now I'm not drunk. That's all I've had. Frankie08. I'll come back to that. Something white I hate. I forget what I wrote there. Okay, sorry about that, Frankie. I'll get you in the next round of questions. A guy called Alan said, I got this in a private message, what's the deal with the Maltese Cross? Very good question. Maltese Cross, very ancient symbol. Now, the Maltese Cross is absolutely not Christian. The Maltese Cross appears all over the world, like what you call the Star of David, the hexagram, and so on, or the swastika and the Sun Cross. The Maltese Cross, or the Cross Petit, is it's a very powerful, it's part of the sun wheel, the solar wheel tradition, just like the swastika and the Celtic cross, and it's always been central to occult and pre-Christian spiritual traditions. A good example is around Ireland, there are these cross petites all over the place in old monasteries, and they say they're Christian, they're not, they're pagan. In fact, they're even admitting now they're pagan, which is amazing. That's because all the Jesuit professors who push this stuff in Irish antiquities courses are all dropping dead, and one by one. So we're actually having the new generation coming along who's they're still conservative, but at least they're not lying for on behalf of the Pope. And it represents the 4 cardinal points, which is pretty much straightforward. The sun spinning across the sky, just like the swastika, the hammers of Thor in perpetual motion, if you want to look at it that way, and the St. Bridget's cross, the 4 cardinal points, the sun halo kind of idea. And it represents the embodiment of the capturing of the power of the sun within the spirit of man. And that's why the Freemasons adopted it. And that's why Ferdinand Braun, the engineer who transmitted the first television picture, who was an ardent occultist and Freemason, the first thing he did, he got a Crookes tube, which was like an early form of the cathode ray tube, made of glass, and he fired the electrons through it onto the phosphorescent coating on the other side, and in order to charge the particles, to distinguish the charged particles from the uncharged particles on the front of the Crookes tube, he made a cross petit, the Maltese Cross, right? So that was the first ever TV transmission ever produced, was a Maltese Cross, and that was done for occultic reasons. Of course, it's it from the Knights of St. John, the Maltese Cross of Malta, wonderful country. I'm looking forward to getting back there again soon. And it's wherever you see them on graves, it's usually members that do the medical profession, modern graves, medical profession. That might go back to pre-Christian times as well. You never know. And so that's the purpose of the Maltese Cross. So I'm sorry again for that fella. I wish I could remember why I wrote that. What he wrote down there. Why the hate? I'll come back to it later. Anyway, so that's basically it. The first Ales and Answers question session. If you have any questions about anything, just ask down below, and I'll answer them as best I can. This is my truth, and you seek your own truth, but